Hello, you again. Welcome to the Medicine Show. In a lot of my material, I use a symbol and a sound to indicate something, and technically, it's not a thing. The symbol itself is the empty set symbol, and how I intend its use is it is a placeholder for a being that we have a complete incapacity to represent. Okay, so mathematically, it's the empty set. So in the sum of all human expression, thought, all objects in the universe, there does not exist a word or a symbol or a concept to represent that being. It's an empty set. It is a non-label. I do this for a reason. The instant a man labels something, it is a source of conflict. Okay? For an example, if I use the word God and another man uses the word Allah, men say, oh, it's a different word, so therefore we must be talking about a different being. I like to sidestep that argument immediately. We've got enough of that bickering out there. Okay? If we don't know what we're talking about by now, and if we still need to fight over what label we use, then do we really need to be around? So I use a sound to represent it. Okay? There is no sound a man can utter that will make that sound. The name itself doesn't have vowels, so therefore men cannot speak it. Consonants without vowels, have no sound. The name, because names are something that identities like us, the little flesh suits, need. Identities and definitions are what we use to convey, thoughts and concepts and labels for things out there. Well, this is a no thing. It's a being. It's that singular supreme consciousness through which a highly organized thought that we call the universe or multiverse emerges, which is merely a organization of nothing. Ask a physicist or somebody in quantum mechanics. Okay, what's the smallest particle? They haven't found it yet. They find components that get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller beyond the limit that we could measure. Consequently, we can't see past the boundaries of the universe going on the macro scale. We don't have the capacity to see the limit, either direction. Okay, and we don't know where we are in the scale, and I don't think we're really supposed to. We're supposed to be comfortable that this is the level at which we can experience the universe, and we should be comfortable with that because all meaning and all purpose and usefulness can be derived at this level. It's the multiverse is this reflection. It's how this being sees out into oblivion to experience and contemplate itself, to know itself. And we each, as flesh suits, or creatures, or rocks, or trees, all provide the means by which this singular supreme consciousness experiences itself and can contemplate its own nature. All right? This is its exploration, whereby we each are just simply facets of that singular consciousness. Okay? There is a privacy in our viewport. Now, The brain does not produce that consciousness. The brain is merely a conduit by which that consciousness experiences the illusion of the universe and multiverse. That's all. So you guys in science, keep cutting the brains up trying to find the center of consciousness. It's not here. Okay, so the being that looks out of my eyes that I call me is the same being that looks out of your eyes that you call you or me. So the only difference is the illusion that you and I are separate. That's all. That there is space, the illusion of space, there's the illusion of volume, there's the illusion of time. Because an infinite consciousness that exists in eternity does not require time. Is a non sequitur. I mean, it doesn't. There is no equivalency. It's an inappropriate question. Our flesh suits, that which has beginning has an end. Well, a being in eternity has no beginning and has no end. So a death is something that a being from that perspective in eternity probably would want to experience, in a real sense. So we come in here in these flesh suits and wow, we can actually pretend to die just to feel what that's like. We can also experience pain, pleasure, joy. I mean, all of the things that make our lives interesting and meaningful are merely a reflection. So I use on as a phonetic to represent, not to represent the being, but to represent the symbol that we have no label to describe that consciousness. And I use on because using a real long word is, too much work. And me just sitting here saying, and is this and that, the break in the language will create a disjunction, and I believe it to be a source of misunderstanding. The limitations are not on. It is our limitation. It is the limitation of the language. It is the limitation of the multiverse and the universe as it is currently constructed. So, and not only that, but if we from an egoic state had the power to call on and direct on as we saw fit, that would ruin the entire purpose of the universe and multiverse itself. I mean, it is an objective self-evaluation, an introspective of that nature. Now, this highly organized dream, these waves of in the fabric of nothing, this highly organized thought is maintained through a set of principles that we call natural law, physics, mathematics, geometry, chemistry, quantum mechanics, astronomy, all of these infinite little sciences and viewpoints. Philosophy is another means of defining these basic principles. They're infinite. Each one of those specialties are infinite. It is more than one man can know. It's more than many men can know, and it's probably limitless within each one of the particular disciplines. But there are a lot of us, and we can each see a small facet of it, and then all that experience gets fed back to the singular consciousness. Now, all law, this is the source of all law. It's a source of all love. It's a source of all truth. It's a source of all knowledge. It is the source of the mind. And again, the brain doesn't create the mind. The mind exists, and the brain is merely a conduit through this physical manifestation through which the mind receives and transmits information back and forth into this illusion. How is it transmitted? Well, it's transmitted metaphorically, symbolically. It's transmitted through everything that we experience, everything that we think. Now, thinking and reason are two different things. Thinking is what the brain does. It's a very procedural, very machine-like. It's computer-like. Reason is different. Reason comes from that place, that calm place, where you're not thinking. You're inspired. The idea just pops into that place where you're not thinking and not distracting yourself. Most people do not have that clarity yet. Most people are constantly distracted by that little nattering voice they hear in their head, which they believe is them, just babbling away, labeling everything, and distracting them into the future and distracting them into the past, doing anything it can to keep your attention from what's going on right now. Okay? You can't achieve a clarity of mind. I can sit, honestly, I can sit 4 hours and not have a single thought enter my mind. That's clarity. And in that state, it doesn't take very long for me to all of a sudden, a idea, an inspiration pops out from that nothing. At which point, then, my brain begins to analyze what it's given. And at which point it begins to, manifest an effect. Appreciate what it's been given. So, on is that consciousness. Now, why is that important? Well, I'm going to start talking about some concepts where I need some way of conveying the being that I'm, referring to, that I'm trying to relate. Of course, I hate to use words like God, because those labels have been stigmatized. And if I say that word, it has a different meaning for anybody. On is the being that is experiencing the universe through the atheist's eyes. It's not exclusionary. An atheist has a particular need to exist, not any different from the devoutly religious or the agnostic or anything else. Their experience, their lives have value. And to discount that value because of their particular expression in this universe is to reject and refuse a worthwhile lesson. And I am not that man. Not this flesh suit. This flesh suit listens and watches and values everybody out there. Even those people that are confused or disagree. Now, I have shut people off from this, from the medicine show, not necessarily because I don't value what they say, but ego has a great way of cluttering up and distracting. It's hard enough to pay attention without somebody introducing their own confusion and clouding a singular message. I'd like this to be different. So the on symbol will become very important in some of the following videos, so that when I say on, hey, switch on, right on, that the being I'm talking about. It's not he, it's not she, it's not it. The only pronouns that are viable are I and me. I as in the reference to you being an illusion, me being your illusion. just a reflection of you. You being a reflection of me. Same me. So that is all I mean to convey here in this video. So hopefully it gives you an idea. Because the last thing I want to do is throw a term out there that everybody's going to fight over. Okay, so I just threw a non-term out there, so there's no reason to fight, is there? So, okay, we'll talk to you in a bit. Have a good one. As always, thank you for being me.